In the heart of Paris, 1873 unfolded as a city alive with artistic fervor and restless innovation. The grandeur of its boulevards and the quietude of its workshops formed a backdrop where art and everyday life intertwined seamlessly. Among the countless figures shaping this vibrant tapestry was Marcel Lefebvre, a well-known art dealer whose gallery stood nestled in a narrow street off the Rue de Rivoli. Marcel's reputation for discovering unique sculptures and paintings made him a respected figure among collectors and artists alike. It was during one crisp autumn morning that a delivery arrived, carrying a mystery that would ripple through the art world and the streets of Paris. Before we embark on the unsettling journey of a boy who was tragically discovered hidden within a statue in 1873, be sure to subscribe and like the video to keep up with our intriguing tales from history. And tell me, what thoughts come to mind when you hear about a story like this as we uncover the layers of mystery and humanity? The object in question was a large marble statue, a work attributed to Camille Durand, a sculptor whose name had recently begun to gather whispers of both admiration and speculation. Durand was known for his exquisite craftsmanship and his bold, sometimes unsettling, interpretations of classical themes. This particular statue, draped in a flowing cloak and poised in a contemplative stance, was said to be his latest masterpiece. Rumors suggested that Durand had labored over it for months in his cramped atelier, tucked away near Montmartre, though no one had seen the work until its arrival at Marcel's gallery. Marcel had been eagerly awaiting the piece, anticipating its potential to captivate patrons and elevate his gallery's prestige. The day the crate arrived, a small crowd of workers and assistants gathered to witness the unveiling. The crate was heavy, its wood worn but sturdy, marked with the sculptor's insignia and the gallery's seal. As the men carefully removed the boards and lifted the statue onto a wheeled platform, a peculiar silence fell over the group. The statue's marble surface gleamed under the gas lamps, revealing delicate details. A hand extended as if reaching for something unseen, eyes cast downward in quiet reflection. Yet, beneath the aesthetic beauty of the statue, an unsettling undercurrent lurked. It was Marcel's keen ear that first detected the faintest of sounds, a subtle, irregular noise that did not belong to the creaking wood or shifting stone. At first, he dismissed it as the settling of the crate or the movements of the delivery men. But as the minutes passed, the sounds grew clearer, unmistakably resembling muffled cries and faint tapping. Marcel's heart quickened. He motioned for the men to stop and approached the statue cautiously. With a trembling hand, he pressed his ear against the marble base. The sounds persisted, fragile and desperate. Alarmed, Marcel signaled for the crate to be carefully dismantled further, probing the interior of the statue's base. To the astonishment and horror of all present, they discovered a small boy, hidden within the hollow confines of the marble. The child was no more than 10 years old, his clothes torn and dust-covered, his face pale but alive with fear. He shivered, clutching his knees to his chest, unable to speak at first. When Marcel gently asked the boy his name, or how he came to be encased inside the statue, the child's wide eyes darted around the room, overwhelmed by the sudden exposure to light and sound. His voice, when it emerged, was a mere whisper, fragmented and hesitant, unable to offer coherent answers. This startling revelation sent ripples through the gallery and beyond, touching on the darker realities of Parisian society in the late 19th century. The city was a complex mosaic of wealth and poverty, artistic brilliance and social neglect. Child exploitation was a grim reality often concealed beneath the veneer of progress and civilization. The anonymity of the city's labyrinthine streets allowed countless tragedies to unfold unnoticed, and the appearance of a boy hidden inside a statue shattered the comfortable illusions held by many. Marcel, though shaken, acted swiftly. He wrapped the boy in a warm shawl and called upon the help of his trusted assistant, Henri, to fetch water and blankets. The workers, initially stunned, rallied to support the rescue, their curiosity mingled with unease. The boy's injuries, though not severe, suggested a prolonged confinement in cramped quarters. Bruises marked his arms, and his lips were chapped from thirst. Yet, there was a resilience in his gaze, a glimmer of survival that spoke to a will hardened by hardship. As news of the discovery spread, the gallery became a focal point for speculation and concern. Marcel found himself thrust into a role he had never anticipated, that of protector and investigator. Questions swirled. Who had placed the boy inside the statue? Was this an act of cruelty, a sinister plot, or some perverse artistic statement? And perhaps most pressing, who was this child who emerged from the cold marble cocoon? The statue itself, once a symbol of artistic accomplishment, now bore the weight of this mystery. Its smooth surface, meticulously carved, seemed to mock the cruel concealment it had harbored. The juxtaposition of beauty and horror captivated the imagination of those who heard the tale. Paris, a city where art was revered and life was often harsh, confronted a new enigma, one that blurred the lines between creation and captivity. Marcel's connections in the art world proved invaluable as he sought to uncover the origins of the statue and the circumstances that led to the boy's imprisonment. Camille Durand, the elusive sculptor, was known to keep to himself, shrouded in rumors of eccentricity and obsession with his craft. Some whispered that Durand's work bordered on the macabre, that his sculptures were imbued with hidden meanings and dark secrets. Others insisted he was a misunderstood genius, pushing the boundaries of artistic expression in a city hungry for innovation. The delivery men, when questioned, could offer little insight beyond the shipment's origin and destination. The crate had been sealed and transported discreetly, avoiding the usual channels of art distribution. Marcel suspected that someone, somewhere, was desperate to conceal both the statue's contents and the boy's existence. Meanwhile, the boy, though frightened and exhausted, began to show signs of recovery. Under Marcel's care, he was removed from the statue's shadow and placed in a safer environment. Yet his silence remained a barrier. The child's inability to recount his ordeal left Marcel and others grappling with the enormity of the mystery. Was the boy a willing participant in some dark scheme, a victim of cruelty, or perhaps a symbol of the hidden suffering embedded within the city's artistic triumphs? The discovery of the boy within the marble statue became a quiet sensation among Parisian society, whispered about in salons and cafes, debated in newspapers and police precincts. It exposed a fracture beneath the city's polished surface, a reminder that behind every masterpiece there might lie a story of pain and concealment. Marcel Lefebvre, once solely an art dealer, found himself at the nexus of a mystery that challenged not only his professional ambitions, but also his conscience. The statue, now resting in the gallery's central hall, stood as a silent witness to the boy's ordeal and the questions that demanded answers. It was a work of art transformed by circumstance, its significance amplified by the human life it had harbored in secret. The morning of its arrival marked not just the beginning of a new exhibit, but the unveiling of a story that would unravel the fabric of 19th-century Parisian society, exposing its shadows as vividly as its light. The day the statue arrived at Marcel Lefebvre's gallery had already begun under a shroud of quiet anticipation, but it was the unfolding discovery that transformed an ordinary delivery into an event that would grip the city's attention. The workers tasked with unloading the crate were seasoned men, accustomed to handling fragile and heavy art pieces with practiced care. Yet none had expected the eerie sounds that emanated from within the marble form. It began as a faint tapping, barely perceptible over the creak of wooden boards and the murmur of voices, but soon grew insistent enough to arrest the attention of all present. Marcel, standing nearby with his assistant Henri, was the first to register the unnatural noise. At first, he considered the possibility of some mechanical device or a trick of acoustics, but the sounds bore the unmistakable rhythm of a human presence. The workers halted their labor and exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a tall man named Jacques, knelt beside the statue's base and placed his ear against the cold marble. His eyes widened, reflecting the same disbelief that gripped Marcel. "Is someone inside?" Jacques whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and fear. The gallery's air thickened with tension as Marcel ordered a careful dismantling of the statue's base. The men pried open the wooden crate further, revealing a hollow cavity within the marble. Then came the revelation that no one could have anticipated. A small figure curled within the confines of the statue's interior. A boy, trembling and disheveled, his eyes wide with terror and confusion, stared back at them. The child's condition was fragile. His limbs bore bruises, his clothing was tattered and smeared with dust, and his skin was pale from confinement and lack of sunlight. When Marcel approached, speaking softly and offering a comforting hand, the boy recoiled initially, but soon relaxed, sensing an unfamiliar kindness. Attempts to coax him into speech met with silence or broken whispers, his memories seemingly fragmented by trauma. As the workers tended to the boy, wrapping him in blankets and offering water, Marcel's mind raced to comprehend how such a thing could have occurred. The very notion of a child concealed within a marble statue was so surreal, it bordered on the unbelievable. Yet, here was living proof, a fragile soul whose life had been hidden away beneath the veneer of artistic beauty. The boy's presence inside the statue ignited immediate concern about the circumstances leading to his captivity. Confinement in such a space would have been torturous. The cramped quarters, the cold stone walls, the absence of light or fresh air. His injuries suggested he had been trapped for an extended period, struggling against his prison. Questions swirled without answers. Who had hidden him there, and for what purpose? Marcel's thoughts soon turned to the broader context of Parisian society, where shadows often concealed the city's harsh realities. The late 19th century was a time when the rapid urbanization of Paris had created a paradoxical environment. On one side, the blossoming of culture, art, and wealth. On the other, the proliferation of poverty, crime, and exploitation. Children were among the most vulnerable, frequently falling victim to neglect or worse. The anonymity provided by the city's narrow alleys and bustling streets enabled many such tragedies to remain hidden. Marcel knew that the boy's rescue was only the beginning. He needed to find a place where the child could recover and be protected from further harm. Acting swiftly, he reached out to Sister Amélie, a nun known for her compassionate care of orphans and abandoned children. Sister Amélie's institution offered shelter and medical attention, a sanctuary amid the city's often unforgiving landscape. The transition was delicate. The boy, now removed from the statue's confines, was placed under the gentle supervision of Sister Amélie and her staff. Though still wary of strangers and the unfamiliar surroundings, he began to regain strength. His breathing steadied, his bruises gradually faded, and his eyes, though still haunted, flickered with moments of curiosity and recognition. News of the boy in the statue spread rapidly through the city, carried by whispers in cafes, the pages of newspapers, and the hushed conversations of those fascinated by the mystery. The public's reaction was a mixture of shock, empathy, and morbid curiosity. The story pierced the collective consciousness, symbolizing the unseen suffering often concealed beneath the surface of Parisian society. Marcel found himself at the center of this storm, balancing his roles as caretaker, investigator, and dealer. He sought to uncover the boy's origins, hoping to restore his identity and bring justice to his plight. Yet, the child's silence and fragmented recollections posed significant obstacles. At times, the boy would mutter indistinct fragments, a name, a place, a fleeting image, only to retreat into silence once more. Meanwhile, Marcel's inquiries extended toward Camille Durand's workshop, the origin of the statue. Durand was a figure shrouded in enigma, known for his reclusive nature and intense dedication to his craft. He rarely welcomed visitors and was reputed to harbor secrets within his studio. Marcel arranged discreet visits, seeking to understand if the sculptor had knowledge of the boy, or if his latest work concealed more than marble and artistry. Durand's assistants were hesitant to speak. Their loyalty to the master mingled with unease at the unfolding scandal. Some mentioned unusual activities within the workshop, late-night sessions, whispered conversations, and the disappearance of a young apprentice who had vanished without explanation. These hints suggested that the statue might be linked to darker events, though concrete evidence remained elusive. Speculation abounded. Was the boy a victim of child trafficking, hidden away to evade the authorities? Had the statue been a vessel of concealment in a nefarious scheme, or was it part of a twisted artistic performance gone awry? Theories multiplied, reflecting the anxieties and suspicions of a society grappling with the coexistence of beauty and brutality. Throughout this period, the boy's health improved, yet his memories remained clouded. Sister Amélie's gentle care provided a semblance of stability, but the child's trauma was palpable. He displayed moments of fright when confronted with marble objects or statues, as if reliving the terror of his confinement. Marcel and those around him wrestled with the question of how to help him reclaim his past and forge a future beyond the shadow of his ordeal. The unfolding drama highlighted the stark contrasts within 19th-century Paris, the celebration of artistic achievement alongside the grim realities of urban life. The boy, once hidden and silent within the marble statue, had become a living symbol of the city's contradictions. His rescue was a moment of hope, yet it also underscored the depth of unseen suffering that persisted beneath the city's glittering facade. Marcel's gallery, once a sanctuary for art and beauty, had become a crossroads for human tragedy and intrigue. The statue, now empty of its secret occupant, stood as a silent sentinel to the boy's harrowing experience. The day's events marked a turning point, not only for the child and those who cared for him, but for a society beginning to confront the shadows lurking within its own creations. Following his rescue from the cold confines of the marble statue, the boy's life took a tentative turn toward safety and care under the watchful eyes of Sister Amélie at the local orphanage. Nestled within a modest convent on the outskirts of Paris, the orphanage was a sanctuary for children displaced by poverty, neglect, or misfortune. Sister Amélie, a woman of quiet strength and unwavering compassion, had dedicated her life to nurturing those abandoned by society. It was here, amidst the gentle rhythms of daily prayers and simple routines, that the boy began to experience a fragile reprieve from his ordeal. The early days of his placement were marked by silence and suspicion. The boy, whose name remained unknown, communicated little beyond frightened glances and occasional tears. His body bore the traces of his confinement, bruises, scars, and a pallor that spoke of malnutrition and neglect. Sister Amélie's gentle ministrations, coupled with the kindness of the other children, slowly coaxed him from his shell. He began to respond to simple acts of kindness: a warm meal, a soft bed, the comforting presence of others. Word of the boy's extraordinary rescue spread swiftly, capturing the imagination and concern of Parisian society. Newspapers, ever hungry for sensational stories, dubbed him the boy in the statue, weaving narratives that ranged from heroic rescue to sinister intrigue. The press coverage brought a flood of visitors to the orphanage, curious onlookers, sympathetic patrons, and those seeking to uncover the truth behind the mystery. The boy, however, remained guarded, his memories fragmented, and his trust hard-won. Marcel Lefebvre, the art dealer who had discovered the boy, took a keen interest in his recovery and identity. He visited the orphanage frequently, bringing books, toys, and other small comforts, in hopes of drawing the child into a semblance of normalcy. Marcel's determination to uncover the boy's past grew alongside his concern for the child's well-being. Yet, despite his efforts, the boy's recollections remained elusive, offering only fleeting glimpses of a life before the marble prison. The boy's limited memories hinted at confinement and fear, but lacked concrete details. At times, he murmured names and places that seemed disconnected: a fleeting mention of Montmartre, a whispered name Lucien, and an image of a workshop filled with stone and dust. These fragments suggested a connection to the sculptor Camille Durand's atelier, but the boy could provide no clear narrative or explanation. His silence was a protective shield, a barrier against the trauma that threatened to overwhelm him. Meanwhile, Marcel's investigation into the boy's origins intensified. He sought out those who had known Durand, visiting the sculptor's acquaintances and former apprentices. Among them, the workshop assistants spoke cautiously, their reluctance tinged with fear and loyalty to Durand. They recounted unusual occurrences: long hours spent carving the statue, whispered conversations about a secret project, and the unexplained disappearance of a young apprentice named Lucien. The assistants hinted at a tension within the workshop, a sense that something had gone awry, but specifics remained shrouded in secrecy. The public's fascination with the case mirrored the growing awareness of child welfare issues in Paris. The city, while celebrated for its artistic achievements and cultural vibrancy, grappled with the darker realities of child exploitation and neglect. The boy's rescue became a symbol of this hidden suffering, prompting discussions among social reformers and charitable organizations. Calls for greater protection of vulnerable children echoed through newspapers and public forums, challenging long-standing indifference. Amid this climate of concern, Marcel grappled with the ethical complexities surrounding the boy's predicament. The statue, once a prized work of art, had become a vessel of human tragedy, a stark reminder that beauty could mask profound cruelty. Marcel reflected on the paradox of art's power: to inspire and uplift, yet also to conceal and distort reality. The boy's presence within the statue forced him to confront the limits of artistic expression and the responsibilities of those who dealt in such creations. As the boy slowly regained strength, he began to engage with his surroundings in small ways. He showed a tentative interest in the other children, occasionally joining their games or sharing moments of laughter. Sister Amélie noted these milestones with cautious hope, recognizing the slow rebuilding of trust and the emergence of a fragile sense of belonging. Yet, shadows lingered, nightmares haunted the boy's sleep, and sudden bouts of fear reminded all that his trauma was far from healed. In the quiet moments between visitors and inquiries, the boy's gaze often drifted toward the distant Montmartre hills, as if searching for a place or a face lost to memory. Marcel, observing this, pondered the boy's connection to the sculptor's world, and the possibility that his captivity was tied to secrets buried deep within the artistic community. The boy's fragmented whispers of Lucian and the workshop suggested a narrative yet to be fully uncovered. The orphanage became a crossroads of hope and mystery, sheltering a child whose past was entwined with the enigmatic figure of Camille Durand. Sister Amélie, Marcel, and those around them faced the challenge of nurturing the boy's recovery, while navigating the labyrinth of secrets surrounding his origin. Their efforts underscored a broader societal reckoning with the invisibility of marginalized lives and the urgent need for compassion and justice. The tale of the boy and the statue resonated beyond the orphanage walls, inspiring artists, writers, and social advocates who saw in the boy's ordeal a metaphor for entrapment and liberation. His story became a lens through which the city examined its own contradictions, the coexistence of beauty and suffering, freedom and captivity. In the midst of Paris's artistic splendor, the boy's fragile recovery illuminated the human cost hidden behind the marble facade. As days turned to weeks, the boy's presence at the orphanage settled into a quiet rhythm. Though his past remained a puzzle, his future began to take shape within the care and protection afforded by Sister Amélie and the community that had rallied around him. The mystery of his captivity persisted, but so too did the fragile hope that through kindness and perseverance he might one day reclaim a life beyond the shadows of the statue. The growing mystery surrounding the boy found concealed within the marble statue soon drew the attention of the Parisian police, their curiosity and concern fueled by the unsettling nature of the case. Investigators, tasked with untangling the threads of this enigma, turned first to the sculptor Camille Durand's workshop, seeking clues that might illuminate the boy's origins and the circumstances that had led to his imprisonment within the statue. The workshop, nestled in a dimly lit alley near Montmartre, was a place whispered about in artistic circles, part studio, part sanctuary, and, as the inquiry would reveal, a site of shadows and secrets. Detective Inspector Léon Moreau led the official inquiries, a man known for his meticulous approach and quiet persistence. His arrival at Durand's atelier sparked unease among the workshop's occupants. The sculptor himself was notably absent, his reputation for reclusiveness now tinged with suspicion. Moreau's questions met with guarded responses from the assistants, who seemed caught between loyalty to their master and the pressing demands of justice. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken tensions, the air heavy with the scent of marble dust and whispered confidences. Among the workshop staff, a few voices eventually emerged, their testimonies shedding light on unusual activities that had unfolded in the weeks preceding the statue's delivery. One assistant, a young man named Etienne, recounted long nights filled with the rhythmic chisel of stone and the murmur of clandestine conversations, He recalled Durand's increasing obsession with a secret project, a piece unlike any other in the sculptor's oeuvre, which had consumed the atelier's attention and resources. The project, Etienne suggested, was shrouded in mystery even among the closest workers. More troubling was the revelation of a missing apprentice, Lucien, a boy whose name had surfaced in fragmented whispers and whose absence had gone unnoticed for days before the statue's departure. Lucien had been known for his quiet demeanor and dedication, yet his disappearance was now entwined with the dark questions surrounding the statue. Some speculated that Lucien had been involved unwillingly in Durand's secret endeavor, his fate concealed within the marble form itself. The police investigation expanded to trace Lucien's last known movements and associations. Neighborhood inquiries revealed that Lucien had lived with his mother in a modest tenement nearby, a woman struggling to make ends meet and unaware of the full extent of her son's involvement with Durand. The discovery of the boy in the statue raised fears of child exploitation and trafficking, issues that Parisian society was only beginning to confront openly. The possibility that Lucien had been deliberately hidden to avoid detection added a grim dimension to the case. The testimonies of the workshop assistants painted a portrait of an atelier rife with tension and secrecy. Durand's artistic brilliance was shadowed by an obsessive drive that some believed had crossed ethical boundaries. Late-night sessions were marked by whispered arguments and furtive glances, a sense that the sculptor was pursuing a vision that defied conventional norms and morality. The assistants' accounts hinted at a project that blurred the line between art and captivity, raising disturbing questions about consent and the value of human life within the creative process. Theories proliferated among investigators and the public alike. Some posited that the statue had been a deliberate concealment, a vessel crafted to hide a living being, Lucien, either as an act of protection or as part of a darker scheme. Others speculated on the possibility of child trafficking networks using artistic shipments as cover, exploiting the anonymity of Paris's bustling art market to evade law enforcement. Still, others considered the notion of a staged performance or experiment gone tragically awry, an attempt by Durand to transcend traditional sculpture through a macabre fusion of art and life. As the investigation deepened, forensic examinations of the statue and its crate yielded little concrete evidence beyond the boy's presence and the marks of his confinement. The marble's hollow interior showed signs of hastily constructed compartments and ventilation holes, suggesting a deliberate design to accommodate a living occupant, albeit in cruelly constrained conditions. These findings intensified suspicions about the premeditated nature of the boy's concealment and the potential involvement of multiple parties. Marcel Lefebvre, though not formally part of the investigation, remained closely connected to the unfolding inquiries. His position as the statue's recipient and the boy's initial rescuer made him a key figure in piecing together the puzzle. Marcel's own reflections grew darker as he confronted the possibility that the art he so admired might serve as a facade for human suffering. He grappled with the unsettling thought that beauty could be wielded as a weapon, masking exploitation beneath its polished surface. The artists and patrons who once celebrated Durand's work found themselves divided. Some defended the sculptor, insisting on his genius and dismissing the allegations as scandalous rumors fueled by misunderstanding and sensationalism. Others demanded transparency and accountability, their outrage reflecting a broader societal reckoning with the ethics of art and the treatment of the vulnerable. The case ignited debates within artistic circles about the responsibilities of creators and the boundaries of expression. Throughout this turbulent period, the boy's limited memories continued to offer tantalizing, if cryptic, clues. He spoke occasionally of a workshop filled with stone dust and shadow, of a figure named Lucian, who had been both friend and captor. These fragments suggested a complex narrative intertwined with the sculptor's secret project and the darker realities lurking behind the atelier's closed doors. Yet, the boy's trauma rendered him unreliable as a witness, his recollections fragmented and elusive. The police inquiries also uncovered subtle signs of resistance within the workshop. Some assistants hinted at their discomfort with Durand's methods and their secret efforts to protect Lucian, though fear of reprisal had silenced them until now. These revelations hinted at a hidden fracture within the artistic community, a tension between devotion to craft and the imperative of moral conscience. As the investigation pressed forward, it became clear that the case was more than a singular mystery. It was a window into the complexities of a society grappling with the intersections of art, power, and human dignity. The boy's confinement inside the statue was not merely an isolated act, but emblematic of broader issues: child exploitation, secrecy, and the limits of artistic ambition. The workshop, once a place of creative endeavor, now stood as a symbol of concealed suffering and ethical ambiguity. The absence of Durand himself cast a long shadow, his silence fueling speculation and deepening the enigma. The boy, caught between past trauma and uncertain future, was both victim and key to unraveling the truth buried within the marble. In the alleys and salons of Paris, the story unfolded with relentless intensity. Police inquiries, whispered testimonies, and public debates converged in a tense atmosphere charged with fear, curiosity, and moral urgency. The mystery of the boy and the statue was no longer merely a question of art or crime, but a profound challenge to the conscience of a city and its willingness to confront the shadows concealed beneath its gleaming facades. The unfolding saga of the boy, discovered within the marble statue, reverberated far beyond the confines of the police investigation and the intimate circles of Parisian art. It ignited a broader awakening within the city's social conscience, compelling citizens, artists, and officials alike to confront uncomfortable truths about child welfare and the shadows that lurked beneath the gleaming surfaces of culture and progress. The case became a catalyst, igniting public debate and prompting calls for reform in a society still grappling with the complexities of urban life and human rights. In the weeks following the boy's rescue and the revelations about the sculptor Camille Durand's workshop, discussions about child safety gained unprecedented momentum. Social reformers seized upon the case as emblematic of a larger crisis: children hidden in plain sight, victims of neglect, exploitation, and institutional failure. Charitable organizations and advocacy groups, previously marginalized in their efforts, found new audiences and allies eager to address these urgent concerns. Newspapers chronicled the story with a mixture of sensationalism and earnest inquiry. Headlines proclaimed the boy in the statue as a symbol of hidden suffering, while editorials debated the responsibilities of the artistic community and the state in protecting the vulnerable. The public's fascination was matched by a growing unease about the conditions that had allowed such a tragedy to occur. As debates unfolded in cafes and salons, the case prompted a re-evaluation of societal priorities and the mechanisms intended to safeguard children. Within artistic circles, reactions were complex and often conflicted. Many artists and patrons initially rallied to defend Camille Durand, viewing him as a visionary whose genius had been unjustly maligned. They argued that accusations against him were fueled by misunderstanding and sensationalism, a threat to the freedom of artistic expression. Yet, as more details emerged, some within the community expressed quiet doubts, recognizing that the pursuit of art could not be divorced from ethical considerations. Marcel Lefebvre, caught between his admiration for Durand's talent and his horror at the boy's plight, reflected deeply on the duality of art's power. He acknowledged that art had the capacity to reveal profound truths and evoke beauty, but it could also conceal suffering and perpetuate injustice. The statue, once a symbol of creative triumph, now embodied a narrative of captivity and silence. Marcel's experience underscored the uneasy coexistence of inspiration and exploitation within the artistic world. Amid the fervor, the boy himself became a poignant figure in the unfolding drama. His slow recovery and emerging memories offered glimpses into the hidden realities behind the statue's creation. One discovery in particular captured attention: a cryptic message carved inside the hollow of the marble form. The inscription, found by forensic experts and Marcel's associates during their examination, was a series of symbols and words, fragmented, enigmatic, yet unmistakably deliberate. The message hinted at a secret purpose behind the statue, suggesting that the boy's concealment had been more than an act of cruelty or concealment. It pointed to a cryptic dialogue between Durand and those privy to the statue's creation, perhaps a coded plea or a confession veiled within the marble. The existence of this message added a new layer to the mystery, transforming the statue from mere object to a vessel of hidden communication. Public discourse grappled with the implications of the message and the boy's ordeal. Philosophers, writers, and critics pondered the intersection of art and humanity, freedom and captivity, visibility and invisibility. The statue became a metaphor for the societal blindness to suffering, the way beauty and prestige could mask the invisible lives of those marginalized and oppressed. The boy's story resonated as a symbol of resilience and the urgent need for empathy. Writers and artists found inspiration in the narrative, crafting works that explored themes of entrapment and liberation, the tension between creation and destruction, and the fragile boundary between life and artifice. The boy's experience within the statue became a haunting motif, a reminder of the human stories that underpin even the most celebrated works of art. Literary salons and exhibitions began to reflect on these themes, weaving the mystery into the cultural fabric of Paris. Meanwhile, the public's demand for accountability and reform pressured authorities and institutions to act. The case spurred legislative discussions aimed at strengthening protections for children, regulating workshops and apprenticeships, and increasing oversight of artistic enterprises. Though progress was slow and met with resistance, the momentum generated by the boy's story marked a turning point in the city's approach to social welfare. Marcel continued his efforts to uncover the full truth, collaborating with investigators, social workers, and artists to piece together the boy's fragmented past. His reflections deepened as he confronted the ethical dilemmas inherent in his profession, the tension between commerce, creativity, and conscience. The gallery that had once housed the statue became a space of reflection and dialogue, hosting discussions on the responsibilities of art dealers and patrons in safeguarding human dignity. For the boy, the journey was both personal and emblematic. His recovery was marked by moments of hope and despair, as he grappled with the trauma of captivity and the challenge of reclaiming his identity. The support of Sister Amélie and the community around him provided a foundation, yet the shadows of his past lingered. His partial recollections and the cryptic message within the statue served as keys to a narrative that was still unfolding. In the midst of this complex tapestry, the statue itself assumed a new significance. No longer simply a sculpture to be admired, it stood as a testament to hidden suffering and the power of art to both reveal and conceal. Preserved carefully in Marcel's gallery, the statue became a symbol of the city's reckoning, a physical reminder of the human cost embedded within creative ambition. The boy's story, intertwined with the statue's enigmatic presence, continued to captivate and challenge Parisian society. It provoked questions about the ethics of creation, the invisibility of marginalized lives, and the potential for art to serve as both a mirror and a veil. The mystery remained unresolved, but its impact was undeniable, shaping conversations about justice, compassion, and the fragile boundaries between freedom and captivity. In this way, the boy found within the marble statue became more than a singular victim or curiosity. He emerged as a fragile emblem of hope and awakening, a catalyst for change in a city grappling with its own shadows. His presence within the narrative transformed the statue into a living symbol, an enduring enigma that would haunt Parisian culture and conscience for years to come. The mystery of the boy concealed within the marble statue transcended its immediate circumstances to become a profound meditation on the interplay between art and humanity, freedom and captivity. This transformation unfolded not only in the public discourse, but also within the cultural and philosophical reflections that rippled through Parisian society. The statue, once admired solely for its aesthetic qualities, assumed a symbolic weight that challenged prevailing notions of beauty, ethics, and visibility. At the heart of these reflections was the tension between the statue's artistic form and the human life it had harbored, a stark embodiment of captivity ensconced within creation. Philosophers and critics pondered this paradox, questioning how an object designed to celebrate the human form and spirit could simultaneously conceal suffering and imprisonment. The boy's presence within the marble became a powerful metaphor for the ways society often overlooks or suppresses the pain of its most vulnerable members beneath layers of cultural grandeur. Writers of the era, inspired by the story, wove the narrative into their explorations of entrapment and liberation. Poets penned verses that evoked the silent struggle of the boy, trapped within stone yet yearning for freedom. Playwrights staged dramas that dramatized the conflict between creative genius and moral responsibility, casting artists as both creators and captors. These works resonated deeply with audiences, reflecting the broader anxieties of a city grappling with rapid modernization and social upheaval. The statue itself emerged as a potent symbol of societal blindness, a reminder of how beauty and prestige can mask hidden suffering. In salons and literary circles, the boy's ordeal sparked debates on the ethics of artistic creation and the invisibility of marginalized individuals. Artists questioned whether their pursuit of form and expression inadvertently perpetuated systems of exploitation, while social critics highlighted the dangers of aestheticizing pain without confronting its realities. The metaphor extended beyond the confines of art to encompass broader cultural dynamics. The boy's entrapment within the statue echoed the experiences of countless individuals marginalized or silenced by social structures, children forced into invisibility, workers trapped in oppressive conditions, and communities overlooked amid the city's grandeur. The narrative became a mirror, reflecting the fractures beneath Paris's polished surface, urging a reckoning with the human costs of progress. Influence from the story permeated contemporary art, inspiring a wave of works that grappled with themes of confinement and emancipation. Sculptors experimented with forms that revealed the tension between solidity and fragility, while painters depicted figures caught between light and shadow, symbolizing the struggle for visibility and voice. These artistic responses enriched the cultural landscape, fostering a dialogue that intertwined aesthetics with social conscience. Philosophical discourse also deepened, with intellectuals exploring the nature of freedom, identity, and the boundaries between life and artifice. The boy's silent captivity raised questions about the essence of humanity, what it means to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. His story challenged assumptions about autonomy and agency, particularly in contexts where individuals become objects of artistic or social manipulation. Within this milieu, the statue transcended its physicality to become a symbol of dualities, visibility and invisibility, presence and absence, creation and destruction. It embodied the paradox of art as both a celebration of life and a potential instrument of concealment. The boy's emergence from within the marble shattered illusions of purity and perfection, revealing the complex entanglements of power and vulnerability. The narrative also provoked introspection within the artistic community, prompting debates about the responsibilities of creators toward their subjects and audiences. Questions arose about consent, exploitation, and the ethical limits of artistic ambition. Some artists embraced these challenges, advocating for greater transparency and empathy in their work, while others resisted, fearing constraints on creative freedom. Beyond Paris, the story resonated with broader cultural movements engaged in redefining the relationship between art and society. It intersected with emerging discourses on human rights, social justice, and the role of art in reflecting and shaping collective consciousness. The boy's experience became a touchstone for examining how marginalized voices could be acknowledged and integrated within cultural narratives. The story's symbolic power endured in the works of subsequent generations, who revisited the themes of entrapment and liberation through diverse mediums and perspectives. The boy in the statue became an enduring figure in the cultural imagination, a reminder of the fragility of freedom and the imperative to confront hidden suffering. His narrative challenged artists and audiences alike to look beyond appearances and to recognize the humanity embedded within all forms of creation. In this evolving dialogue, the statue stood as both a physical artifact and a conceptual lens, inviting ongoing reflection on the ethics of visibility and the complexities of human experience. It underscored the potential of art to both reveal and obscure, to heal and to harm, depending on the intentions and awareness of those who engage with it. The boy's story, entwined with the marble form, thus transcended its historical moment to become a symbol of cultural and philosophical inquiry. It illuminated the shadows that linger in the interplay between beauty and brutality, freedom and confinement, art and life. Through this lens, the statue was no longer merely an object of admiration, but a profound testament to the enduring human struggle for recognition, dignity, and liberation. Years passed since the boy was first discovered, hidden within the marble statue, and with time, the echoes of that mysterious event softened into a quiet legacy of hope and remembrance. The boy, whose name had finally been restored to him through patient care and the efforts of those who had cared for him, found a life away from the public eye, embraced by a family that nurtured the fragile promise of healing and belonging. His adoption marked a delicate turning point, a movement from shadow to light, from captivity to fragile freedom. The statue that had once imprisoned him was preserved, not in a gallery of fleeting exhibitions, but within a museum dedicated to the complex interplay of art and human experience. There, It stood silently, a solemn witness to a story that transcended its marble form. Its presence invited visitors to pause and reflect on the mysteries concealed within beauty and the stories that lie beneath artistic surfaces. The museum curators, mindful of its significance, ensured that the statue was accompanied by an account of the boy's ordeal, a cautionary tale woven into the cultural memory of 19th-century Paris. The case's impact rippled beyond the confines of art and memory, influencing the evolution of child welfare laws and ethical standards in artistic creation. The revelations about the boy's confinement highlighted glaring gaps in societal protections and the need for vigilance against exploitation, especially in environments where power and secrecy could intertwine. Legislators and reformers cited the incident as a catalyst for change, prompting the implementation of stricter regulations on apprenticeships, workshop oversight, and the transport of art objects. Within the artistic community, the story fostered a lasting dialogue about the responsibilities borne by creators and patrons alike. It challenged the romanticized narrative of the solitary artist, emphasizing instead the ethical dimensions of artistic practice and the necessity of safeguarding the humanity embedded in every creation. Workshops began adopting codes of conduct, and a gradual cultural shift emerged, one that balanced the pursuit of innovation with respect for individual dignity. For the boy, now a man whose past remained a quiet shadow, life unfolded with both the blessings and burdens of survival. His early years of trauma left indelible marks, yet the love and support he received fostered resilience. He lived away from the glare of public fascination, finding solace in the ordinary rhythms of family and community. Though the mystery of his captivity was never fully unraveled, the fragments of memory and the enduring presence of the statue served as a testament to his journey. The statue itself became more than an object. It was a symbol woven into the cultural consciousness, a reminder of the fragility of freedom and the unseen struggles that often lie beneath the surface of beauty. It stood as a silent advocate for the invisible, a challenge to complacency, and a call to empathy. Visitors who encountered it often found themselves drawn into contemplation, compelled to consider the human narratives entwined with artistic expression. Over time, the story of the boy found within the marble statue inspired new generations of artists, writers, and thinkers who saw in it a powerful metaphor for entrapment and liberation. Its lessons echoed in artworks that explored the boundaries between form and formlessness, captivity and release. Literary works and visual arts took up the theme, ensuring that the boy's experience remained a living, breathing part of cultural dialogue. The case also left a profound imprint on philosophical inquiries into existence, consciousness, and the nature of identity. The boy's experience, being alive yet hidden, present yet unseen, challenged conventional understandings of what it means to be recognized as fully human. Scholars debated the ethical implications of such invisibility, considering how societies might better honor the dignity of those marginalized or silenced. In the quiet spaces where the statue rested, and in the hearts of those who knew the boy's story, a fragile hope endured, a hope that from suffering could emerge awareness, and from silence, a voice. The narrative reminded all who encountered it that beneath every masterpiece lies a human story, sometimes hidden, often complex, and always worthy of acknowledgement. The legacy of the boy and the marble statue endures as a testament to resilience and the evolving understanding of art's role in human life. It serves as a somber reminder of the capacity for both beauty and cruelty, and the enduring imperative to look beyond appearances. Through this story, the city of Paris and its people continue to wrestle with the shadows of their past, striving toward a future where the invisible may finally be seen and the unheard may find a voice.